And it was so, it was a slay and a slay, just real shine and brass, and it tarnishes back again.
One garden party.
Well, you're all welcome here this evening, and I'm going to introduce you to Frank McGrade, who lives in Dromore. He served his time in this yard in the early 1940s, 54 years ago. And Frank is going to try and tell us a wee bit of the work that went into the building of a cart. So Frank, when you started to build a cart, how did you begin?
You started with your shafts. They were 4.5 inches between. And you marked them before you had played in the air. You took a hatchet and you took the rough off. And then you took the crane and you planed them. And then in case you couldn't get out, you had a wooden spoke shape. So that done that part of it. But you done the same with the trams. You had to round the trams and cut them that way. But then you come along then, you get your cart balanced. And you had your compass. And from there, you go back there, at the trams, you had 7 divides. From there, back to there. You get 4 divides, you get your cart balanced. 4 there, that's where your axle went. For going down through the shaft to hold on your axle. But then you mortise that. Then the shaft, then you knew the spacing of it. It was narrow at the top and wider behind. And then you had this bolster here, and that's 7 inches here. And that brings it on the level of your wheels. That's 7 inches deep. And that's the middle shaft. Some of them are made as 1 and some of them are made as 2. Called them the middle shafts. You had the mortising, and you had a ton of these. It was all handwork. Well then, that was that part of it. And then you started your sides. And you bolted these stanners here. This here was all inch timber. And that was the bow rail. Then you had your tailboard. And you had all that made up. And then you had your travellers. Then you had your pins for drawing the cars. And then you had your crates. These are the crates. Some of them are 3 railed and some of them are 2.
They were for drawing the turf?
They were for drawing the turf. And then you had hay frames. They were for drawing the hay. That's the hay frames back there. So then you had it all to bolt. You had your axle. Then it comes to your wheels. This is the wheel. You start your wheel and you bore the hole right through there for the metal box. You've got the centre of it. And you bore the hole and then you get a guide scissor. And you cut that out. So one of them's wider there, and that side you have to cut, and then you put in your metal box. So you start it. You had a mortar this here. That's the panel there in the scope. And the cart wheel was always 12 spokes in it. And 6 fellas, 2 spokes for every fella. And this come along here, and you had to go for the fellas. Just like that. You had your auger, this is your fella here. You see me? Right. You mark the fella on that there, you know, for the spoke,
Yes.
for the slate again. And then you had your auger, let them be hold at the slope. That was pronounced your slope.
Yes.
That was there. Like the slope there, you had to sight that at your eye down the side of the fella. So that was that. And then you turned your fella upside down. And that was a half-inch. You bored this with a half-inch auger. Just board it in there, and you put an oak barrel in there. That was sitting out about a half an inch. And that joined the 2 fellas together.
Yes.
So that was, you had your spokes in, and you had your fellas bored and ready to go. And then you started then to get it round. And this was the trammel. This was the centre. So that nailed into the centre of it there. And you had this into here, and you went right round your wheel to make it right. That was all the
Got it exact.
got it exact right round. And then you
Yes.
took your plane then, and you paid it again. So that is your wheel.
So in the
Then
wheel,
you had the nail bonds. That's the nail bonds. You had to start and cut at the saw, hammer saw right round and get it just to that's the irons. You nail them in the forge. Then you come along into the hooping. Put on a big fire and you set the wheel down. And the new iron stretched more than the old iron. I think it was about an inch and a quarter for new iron, and 3/4 of an inch for old iron. You travel this round again to get your iron made. Get a mark there. You put a mark in your trammel. And you set it there, and you unround that so many times. Say it took 6 runs, or maybe 6 small ones. And then you knew an inch of air to cut it. Try that and allow it so much height. But then there was an iron, and there was a round like that, the same as a fella. And it caught the hoop there. And you had to take that down, just Attleton board or nothing, and put the bend in it. You give it the shape for the wheel. You had that done then, you welded it. That was really difficult now.
so in the wheel, Frank, you have different woods used in building the wheel. What
Yeah.
woods did you build the wheel with?
With the nail. And oak with the spoke, and large the fella.
What was the reason for the 3 different woods?
Well, they were a hard one. There was no timber heavier than oak or elm. There's only one timber heavier, and that's greenheart. Greenheart's the only timber that will sink in water. Oak or elm, and I always thought that oak and elm was the heaviest, but greenheart, I worked with greenheart, that's not there, and it's still heavier. James McCarran would have worked off it. And that's why it was, she took it to be very hard for it to wear. You know, the large,
And
the oak was very hard.
the nave then made out of the alum, it didn't crack?
Well, it was always kept well painted.
Right.
Just kept well painted. Well, when it was saved and well seasoned before, and then the timber that you had for the cat. The old man used to have it for a year before they'd work on it. It was well seasoned.
So it was a job that was very specialised in that it had to be properly prepared. You had to think years ahead.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
It
And
wasn't.
then it was painted orange lead. The lead at that time was hot and powder.
Yes.
So you got to paint it glass, and you put the lead on the glass,
Yes.
paint oil, and mixed it into a paste with a knife, like it would wee grains in it. So you put it into a box there and lidded it for about 2 or 3 months till it was slopping,
Right.
people call it.
Right.
So then
That was for-
it'll be too gravy, you mix it and put it on right away.
Let's see.
And then any big false that we made putty. That was made out of white and paint oil too.
Made in glass as well.
So you made it on the glass too. Just put it on the glass and put in the powder and made it then till it comes to the right thickness and worked it
Right.
well with
How long would it take to make a new chart?
the 2 weeks.
How much would it cost?
But the cart at that time would have been about, say about £15.
Not a hard work. But as we work the materials now,
So I see you're making the cart today for 1,000. And then the gift and action, that was the best action. And you have work with
there's
cart.
an actual that rattled.
Aye,
Some rattled.
3 clicks in a chain, there was no fella around there, so it used to say, he knew it'd be gift and action. 3 clicks in a chain.
Yeah.
And he could have this in the eh? The good second action.
The second actual.
The second.
One, the good second one.
Aye.
Tell me.
Good second, the gift was the main action.
And why was it being a difference, like what the other one not look as well?
No, there wasn't the same rattle of it.
But what did
This
the
old
rattle-
man used to say there was another customer in action, you could stay and pilot it.
But they just knew warning about it. But there's a warning about it too. Was that coming?
That's what, well, the lady I last got it, there was better stuff in the business of the year.
But the other one did his long and all.
But it didn't do his job.
Oh, did it not?
It didn't do his job. And they say that a horse worked better
Oh,
with the noise.
ah,
The same in the wooden props.
ah,
Like they want to run in the rubbers,
ah.
a horse never thought of the same.
Didn't it?
No, never thought of the same. He wanted the noise and the dial.
Well then, the making of the paint, that was quite a job too. Frank, how did you do?
Oh, that was for the tops.
Uh-huh.
When the tops, you wouldn't get the stain at that time. Made out of the paint oil, raw sienna, yellow ochre and turkey umber. That was the 2 fibres.
Mm-hmm.
So you could rest it what colour you wanted, you know, for the top.
Yes.
So the tops, that,
There.
the top that's got a,
That one behind you there.
boy, that's right. But there's shaft there and there's a hectare of lancewood.
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 Yes.
When there was some of them made out of ice, but that were there and they mortars into that there.
Yes.
And screws. But
Yes.
then there you need to weigh in.
Yes.
So them are the 2 main timbers for that.
Yes.
But then that there now, when it's time now to be stained,
Yes.
oil stained.
Mhm.
That is usually that many of the ones that them was brought in till you did it.
Right.
And you take an inch and a quarter chisel and scrape the whole thing. And then a smaller chisel you get into the edges. And then you sandpaper that you're black in the face. So, the next thing you put on the end was a coat of oil.
Yes.
And that went into the water.
Yes.
And it was straight. Now the top strong, each straight, and there was a cartridge brush, and a net brush.
What were the brushes made from?
The brushes, they come from Germany. They were common hair brushes. They come from Germany.
Mm-hmm. And how did they?
And they were about that length, the hairs never scattered. Now you just had a pin on a wee flat tip, and you dropped it on like that, and you just with your thumb, you bristled it. And you went, see you were doing a scoop, you just did it like that, the 1/4 inch in the middle, and the 2/8 inches, of a different colour, one would be black and one would be yellow.
Mm-hmm.
2 on each side, you'd have a very steady hand for that. So Then the top and the wheels and all, they were stained and varnished and sprayed.
You don't want to be dumped when you do. You wouldn't want to be dumped when you do.
You wouldn't.
You-
Very solid to give it that job.
You have a story, Frank, about a travelling man coming to get a job done. Could you tell us it?
That's right.
Yes.
We were working orders, raining very heavy, very bad day. And this man arrived and he was a travelling man. And they had 7 jumping chairs to get on. So, of course, at that time, you know, money was very scarce. But he wanted to do 7 for a wedding. So, of course, the fellow looked at him and he thought to himself, well, this boy get the 7 done and he not get the money. What happened? It was hard to get money at that time. Anybody would come and tell me to see you. But he said he waiting the time. Then he says, will you not do 1 or 2? He says, what am I? The time to do 1 or 2. But he looks at him, he says, I think we could do them all. You'll have time enough. But eventually I always kept enough. He looked at your daddy and he says, you know what I think's wrong? He says, you're afraid of the money. No, he says, I'm not afraid of the money at all. But by God, he put his hand into his inside pocket and he put out 10 and 25 notes when they were like that. He says, I'll give you the money before you start. He says, I'm happy enough at this is costing. He says, I'll give you the money. So, of course, when he seen the money, he was on there. No, he says, I'll not do that, but he says, I'll do 3 of them. And you can come and see what they're like. So he come and the 3 was writing up, and he done the 7. 7 tops and he paid him. And he gave him, I think, something like 10 or 15 pound extra. And I got a 5 out of it. First 5 over a shooting. So they got, they were right, we read the top right onto the diamond. And they come with 7 piebald horses. And them with it. And they went out, the brick were, who they were, I don't know.
What was the man like?
Big, tall, strong, well-dressed. Big, tall, strong man. Gentleman. And this man. But of course, your daddy, he was delighted to see it getting us enough money. And I looked at him and said, you know, we're at the wrong job, so you should get that job there, that's when the job there's money.
I think we'll give Frank a rest now.
Somebody else can.
Well, could we call on a few musicians down the back there to come in? We're going to have a wee bit of music now from 3 of the old reliables. John Dunn, Francie Murphy, Jim Colgan. Away we go. Here we have a fine example of a traveller's caravan, and it was made just using a Stanley knife and a good pair of hands, and was made by Paddy Mohan from Erpenstein. Right, we're about to start off now. You give me the note, Jim. From Flint now. And Jim has recently gone on to an album with this lovely song, I Wonder What's Keeping My True Love Tonight.
I wonder what's keeping my true love tonight. I wonder what's keeping her out of my sight. For if she only knew of the pain I endure, she would not stay from me this way, I am sure. Oh, love, are you coming, your pen to advance? Or are you waiting on a far better chance? Or have you got a sweetheart to leave by in store? Or are you coming to tell me you love me no more? Oh, I am not coming, my pen to advance, nor am I waiting on a far better chance, nor have I got a sweetheart to leave by in store. But I'm coming to tell you I love you no more. Green grass, it grows bonny, spring water flows clear. I weary when I think of you, dear. You were my first true love, and sore do I rue. For the fonder I loved you, the falser you grew. I have gold in my pocket, I have love in my heart, but I can't love a fair maid who has got two sweethearts. I could love her but gently, like the dew on the thorn that falls down at night and goes away in the morn. Now all you pretty fair maids, take a warning from me. Never build your nest on the top of a tree, for the leaves they will wither and the roots will decay, and like a false-hearted young maid, they'll soon fade away.
Right, and what in? What out? How long did you serve your time?
From after Easter 1937 to Good Friday 69, it was a long apprenticeship, wasn't it?
Oh, it certainly was.
And if he'd boss had lived another couple of years, he could have took me with him.
Was he a good boss?
Yes.
That's good.
Not bad.
What type of work did you do?
Church
All-
work.
Yes?
A lot of church work in the
Uh-huh.
early days. Pilot church work.
Yes. Like what now?
Oh, the whole thing, roofing, seats. Derek Onley, we done it.
Yes.
The only subcontractor on that was Rocks of Dublin, we done all that. We done the whole thing, seating,
that right?
roofing, confessionals, whole lot. And Christy Drum made done the iron of the gates.
Mhm.
You see them now, you wouldn't think they were done in a skilling. There's the White Hart. He was good. Christy Drum. He was good.
Wrought iron man.
Aye. Well, he could do it.
It would be all welding at that time.
No, there was no welding. Very little welding. Riveting and it was all,
What rivet?
it was all punched.
But there's a lot of work to let the punching and everything.
Just heated in the fire and then punched.
Oh, he could have done some with cow. Yeah? Oh, all right. Well, he could do it by. You wouldn't get, you'd think Lugger come out of Belfast or something.
Right.
Oh, he was good. He'd won a real good one.
It's a speedy way of working now.
Oh,
It'll be the
what are you
same work.
talking about? There were no quick cuts running
That
then.
work will be there in hundreds of years.
Who made carts down your way, Tommy?
Huh?
Who made carts down your direction?
Hugh Green's father and his uncles.
Yes.
And they could make a cart too.
Yes.
And it wouldn't fall to pieces in a couple of years. Way out. Yeah. We had carts nearly wore the men out. I know many years.
They weren't smart, so they made them, they should have made them worse and they've got more trade.
Aye.
Like the cars nowadays.
Yeah.
Not too long.
No loss in them. And it wasn't over the pick more through timber
That's
to make
right.
into a cart.
That's right. Because there were not in it, they wouldn't use it.
Wouldn't use it.
Wouldn't use it. Not a very timber.
No, it had to be a proper job, not a shake and a bowl.
Years ago you had a larch for the fellows and then it finished up with the rice.
Poor size.
And ice wouldn't have lasted quite as long.
No, it would not.
And you made your up in the loft too?
Oh, no, on born off, that's right. That's right.
Did you work at it yourself?
A wee bit in the start and then
Right.
do a bit in the farm and line.
Uh-huh.
It took our time to do. 4 hours shillings a week starting.
How much, Tommy, did you?
20 more ready to drop in.
Well, I wasn't so bad. I had 10 bob a week in the
Oh,
cap.
you were lucky.
I was lucky.
I had 4.
Yeah. Small.
Cycle to Grand, maybe 8 mile. No time
Well,
of day, 4 to 6.
It would make you a pay in a year, wouldn't it?
4 hours shillings a week, supposed to. Then it goes to 5. And I mean the first 5 shillings I got was a 5 shilling piece. Now the man said to me, oh sonny, how long that? You know without money as long as you have it? No. Jeez, I was often out money and I still down back. And one day a fella come up me and whether or not he'd have to get the 5 shilling piece and I sell it to him for 6 shillings. I know it was up for a shilling from that day to this and he worked harder than me and he knew I could get away with it.
So you're lucky you got rid of it.
Must have been lucky. 1937.
21
And if you
58
didn't
years
like
ago.
that, there was 20 more ready to start
Definitely,
for it.
definitely.
I mean,
But you see, there wasn't much house building at that time.
I thought we never knew there was that, no?
Oh,
that was the
definitely.
apprenticeship.
Oh, definitely.
Good labours, maybe.
Where did you start, James? That's right. Aye. Right. What year was that? 37.
But James McGuire of Anthony, he was an architect. He was a contractor. And it's him did that work.
Right.
John McKeagneys was right.
Aye.
Summer.
Aye.
That's right. And there was a man like Dermot working with him. Do you remember him? He was a kind of a foreman for Frank McKeagneys lived up there.
Is he in the way going to Loch Chapel the time we were doing Holland?
That's right.
He went broken it.
I live no land from James.
I knew James, knew the sons.
Aye, Sean and
Phil and
Phil.
Sean.
And Dermot, I the young lad.
I didn't know him then.
You know, Dermot's dead a big number of years.
James done good work at him, but I tell you he was drinking and the man was
Oh, dead on. That's right.
done good work.
Wasn't Father O'Hart here in the parish at the time? That's right. He used to go out and have and work along with the men labouring.
There's another man sitting behind us here, Tommy Boat. They're a long time in the timber business, Tommy, yourselves in the milling. How long, Tommy?
Oh, I married my lifetime, my father before that.
Yeah.
My grandfather before that.
Uh-huh.
We're down to Spanish this time.
Oh, don't say that.
3 generations.
Uh-huh. And you were, before you arrived in Lochheys, you were out in Creve, is that right?
I worked with place, my grandfather came from there. I don't know what year that was.
And how was the wheel driven? What river was used or what?
Water wheel.
Aye.
There was, they do more water than it, but it was no good to finish up.
And you see that was dog, they called it a dog. The dog, Tommy, didn't they? They built the water up.
Oh, did I?
Aye.
But in the good weather you would only ever do a couple of hours. When you got at night, you only do a couple of hours.
It had to be a wet time, really.
This summer would have been worse.
But it would have been.
Did your father build the wheel, Tommy?
Down his own home there, couldn't tell you.
Uh-huh.
No, he never went it, no.
Your
mill
mill-
has been there a long time, Tom.
Right.
Used to be a flax mill, you see,
Aye.
before the timber started. It was flax mill first.
Right,
Same old wheel.
yeah. And when did the flax
Yeah, I remember
end?
the flax
See
mill.
you, Tommy?
During the war, there was flax.
There was a revival during the war.
The war was. I made flax coming to the band, I made very little of it.
The common horse and cart.
Horse and cart, sure.
And there was it women was used then for?
Aye.
Was it women?
There was women working.
Worked in
I
it.
remember them, aye.
Kathleen McPhillips was
She
one
was
of the
there,
people.
aye.
And who else?
But I just barely remember. And
Aye.
I don't mind, there was a man lived down the back lane there. Jimmy Rice too was there.
Right.
Jim's father.
Uh-huh.
And some Crudden man.
Fancy Crudden.
Eh?
Was he a fancy Crudden?
It might have been, it was a long time ago now.
Vince couldn't, didn't he, was he hired with fees in his time?
He was, aye.
Or the fees?
He only died there 6
A
months
big
ago.
strong one.
He died there lately.
I knew him well.
Is that right? He died up in Monaghan.
That's right.
Not so long ago.
Aye. He used to be hired in fees.
Fees, he was, aye.
Well, you seem to be still busy, Tommy. What are you making
Oh,
these days?
Cattle trucks and sheds, dog cattle,
Uh-huh.
sheep trucks, from now on. Stuff like that. Some on a Honda.
As long as you're kept busy, that's the main thing. As long as you're kept busy.
Oh, that's all. What
Aye.
do we know?
You see, Tommy, it doesn't take so much to keep the like near you busy.
No, it does not. Take a lesson from you.
You think you're working like you're doing something.
Take a lesson from
You
you.
think it's good enough, isn't it?
But then you
know
see,
that-
get on to our age, you never get tired, because you rest before you get tired.
That's right. I read Jimmy Lynch at work with you was telling me one time about the price of stuff.
Aye,
And Jimmy was picking up a few shells in the shop.
that's right.
But Jimmy and me used to have some great chats about old times. But this cost, he showed me the bill, what it cost. And Jimmy had all marked down the price, and him and the wife discussed it. What it cost, and what he had did the shop for years ago.
That's right.
It was, "Aye, Jimmy, you must know, me and you wouldn't get that pay an hour now at our age." Sure, he said, the young boys doing going now and they could do nothing, but that doesn't make no difference. And he wasn't the best of you were. In about 2 days he hardly over and spoke to me, but he came back to me this day, you know, Frankie says I studied the whole thing up and you were right. He and Jimmy was by it.
Oh, well, woken.
All good tradesmen. No better. He gentleman.
And he maintained if you didn't do the most of the work in the first half of the day, you wouldn't make it.
That's
to the
right.
evening.
That's right. I done a dinner time, Jimmy.
So he had those of
Oh, Jimmy,
Make it in the morning.
Jimmy's a first class man.
good man to bench for.
He was. Oh, Jimmy's clerk works, not a job in the
He was,
and he don't need to be on yeast. It's used to James.
Would sure he'd been better at that like works.
He's far too, he worried too much.
Too exact.
He worried.
Too exact.
He was.
Even for himself, he had to be exact.
That's right.
Oh,
Where's Jim Culligan?
He's behind you.
Jim, do you remember the day he lost the 5 note? Jim.
What?
Do you remember the day Jimmy Lynch, you and Jimmy was clerk of works?
Aye.
And Jimmy thought you had no sense for your age. He told me. We'd come in, you see, for a tea break.
Aye? One over, Tommy. One over.
What do you call it?
Francie?
Jimmy, he went.
No, that's fine.
He didn't know how it happened. But we got, you were knocking about and you got it at the entrance and there was a couple of children coming down. And somebody says the pity they didn't get it for Jimmy had too much. And Jimmy was an awful way at all then for fear the bank man would be worried. Jim should have been worried about the bank. But Jimmy, and how Jimmy lost that 5, I don't know. He was so careful.
no, he was more careful.
He lost the 5
He was more careful.
He was
Well, to give these men a rest now, I've had a request from Tom Bogue here for Denny McCaffrey to do the Turfman from our dig. Am I putting you on the spot, Denny? Am I putting you on the spot?
Take a pal, I took a walk last week at early dawn. I meant a jolly turfman as my way I wended on. Oh, the grandest conversation passed between himself and me, and soon I got acquainted with the turfman from Ardee. He says the donkey's tired and I want to sell my load, for I've had no refreshment since I left home, you see, and I'm tired out from travelling, says the turfman from Ardee. Your cart is wrecked and worn, friend, the donkey's very old. Well, I'm sure it's 40 summers since that poor brute was foaled. Yoked in the trap when I was born, September 43. He journeyed for the midwife, says the turfman from Ardee. The cart is very old indeed, but
this tough old Irish wind. I'm sure it was in use, me boy, in a day of Noah's flood. But the axle never wanted grease, save 1 year out of 3. It's a real old Carrick axle, says the turfman from Hardy. Just then I heard a female voice that I knew very well, politely asking this poor man his load of turf to sell. I shook the steady hand of his and bowed respectfully, in hopes some future day to meet the turfman from Hardy.
Something different. Did any of the turfmen from our day?
1869 being the date of the year when a Waterloo sportsman and more did appear. For again that great prize and to bear it awa, the champion of England against Master McGrath. On the 12th of December, that day of renown, McGrath and his keeper, the left Lurgan town. What a gale on the Chandel, it soon drove them o'er, on the 13th they landed on fair England shore. But when they arrived at the big London town, the all English sportsmen, they all gathered round. Then one of these sportsmen, he give a ha-ha, soon as that the great dog he called Master McGrath. One of the sportsmen standing around, saying, what about you or your Irish greyhound? For you or your greyhound we don't give a ta, and we'll humble the pride of your Master McGrath. Lord Lurgan stepped forward and said, now gentlemen, is there anyone amongst you who has money to spend? For you know, bulls of England, I don't give a straw. Here's 5,000 to 1 on Master McGrath. Well, the master looked up and he waved his big tail, informing your lordship, I know what you mean. But the noble Brownlee, don't fear them ava, for I'll tarnish their laurels, says Master McGrath. There stood the rose uncovered, the great English pride. The master and keeper that stood by her side. Their hair was let off and the crowd did hurrah. There's the pride of old England against Master McGrath. As Rose and the master that both ran along, says Rose to the master, what brought you from home? And why didn't you stop in your Irish domains, and I'd come to win laurels and Albion's great plains? Well, I know well enough we have great Irish bogs, but you'll find in our Ireland there's good men and dogs. Laid on board Britannia, give only your jaw, snuff that up your nostrils, says Master McGrath. Well, the hair shall lead off at a beautiful view, over high hills and hedges so swiftly she flew. But Rose took the first turn according to law, and the second was taken by Master McGrath. The hair she led off now as swift as the wind. He was sometimes before and sometimes behind, but he jumped on her back and he held up his paw. 3 cheers for old Ireland and Master McGrath.
Francie McCaffrey from Letterbelia drew milk to the Esbridge Creamery for years, and he's holding here a wheel similar to that would have been on the dray cart. And What was it like drawing the milk in those days, Francie?
Well, it was a nice enough job. You had to rise early in the morning, they say, and go out about 8 o'clock before and go to the Ash Bridge with a horse and cart, collected the milk along the road, John here and a John there. And
Nice rock solid.
huh?
Took the nice rock solid.
Yeah. So, it was nice enough.
Uh-huh. Many,
Especially in the winter time.
no,
It was cold in the winter time, the roads were slippery.
yes. You had to have the horse well shod.
The horse well prepared.
Was the horse or a pony you had?
Horse.
And then you had to draw a skim milk from you.
Yeah, draw a skim milk.
It was for pigs and cows.
Pigs and cows.
That's right.
Yeah.
Did ever you have a mishap on the way?
We did, during the wartime, go around a Hubble graveyard,
Mm-hmm.
and met the army tanks. That was at the time of the war, where they were coming from Enniskillen, and I was going to the Hess Bridge. We went round the corner, and the road was slippery, and this tank, the first one come straight for the cart, and it hit the cart up the front, and the horse jumped into the ditch, and I jumped onto the ditch, and broke the two shafts out of the cart, and the cart went sliding away along the road.
That was a lucky one for you.
It was a lucky one.
Uh-huh. So, a lot of people drew milk to the creamery in them days.
Even Tom Boone there.
Did you drew, Tom?
Last year.
Is that right?
Last year was open, 45 or 4.
Right. Uh-huh. Creameries had a short enough reign, hadn't they?
Pardon?
Creameries.
What's that?
They only had a short enough reign.
Oh,
They only began about in the middle of the 1890s.
is that right?
Yes. And then,
Finished 44 or 5.
so that's about 50 years they were in vogue. And then it moved into the Scotch store in Enniskillen.
That's right, that's
Mm-hmm.
right.
The lorries came on the road
It
then.
is, aye.
So where did you draw, Tommy?
I do that French too.
From where now?
From our house, Lahey,
Locheyes and...
got Morpheus and Donnelly's and I was the Garrett Dean and Gallagher decades ago. We stayed around. There's home by dinner time.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no money for it.
What was it, Tommy?
16 or 17 about a month. Okay.
Right.
But Francie, the good room and the big room. And yeah.
Oh, well,
If
fair.
you're dark on it.
No, there was one.
That's right.
I well, it was, I think it was 1 and 3 a day, and then with the halfpenny gallon for every gallon of milk you had on the chart. You had a good load. You had a good load when you had 100 gallons.
How much a gallon were you getting at that time?
Some people were getting 4pence halfpenny, and some was 6pence.
And then there was a creamery book. Everybody had a creamery book. And if you got a few pounds of butter, there wasn't many could afford it, you could be in debt. And you took that off your milk.
Oh, we didn't.
No, but that was at the creamery.
Oh, that was at the creamery.
That was at the creamery, they deducted.
And then they started to sell meal at the creamery too, and
Yeah.
they took that out of the milk money as well, you know.
Yeah.
What else from that?
Is the vault still a bit public?
The vault?
Aye.
I in public graveyard.
Public grade,
Yeah.
yeah. Good house and is that still there?
That's
The
still there.
coffin's still there, you know, the wooden coffin.
Uh-huh.
The tempered of an inch and a quarter and homemade nails.
It's blocked off now. You couldn't go into it now.
Oh,
blocked
no, you
off.
can't,
Tis.
that's blocked off.
Tis.
You see their remains, you know, the skeleton
Oh, you
of
will?
the people that are
Mm-hmm.
put in there. Just homemade coffins, rough homemade coffins.
Mm-hmm. Well then, Francie, did you ever hear if the milk wasn't good, the creamery sent you a letter to improve your milk? And there was this lady, she lived near the Gilhorn, and the milk wasn't good, and they got this letter. So the neighbour came along one day and said they saw a hair going out of the byre. That meant that there was a witch around.
That's right.
So she told me that the cure was to put silver in the bucket when you're milking the cow. And it was usually a shilling was put in the bucket, and there was no bother anymore.
Yeah.
I love it the same as the churning. People used to train the witch come along,
That's right.
and you could churn for a whole day and you get no butter.
That's right, right.
Mm-hmm.
There's no butter in the milk.
I knew two old men, and the first beastings of milk for the calf, they wouldn't give it to the calf unless there was silver to put in the bucket. Hadn't silver, they'd go to somebody else, Keegan Killian. The loan of silver to put in the bucket for the first feed. When it was in it. I know that. They wouldn't give it the first
Superstitious,
feed.
you see.
Silver.
So the same people that have sows and that have pets, maybe somebody get a pet and somebody else will get a pet. They call it a pet. So when you fit around them or when they're pets now. And if you give some neighbour a pet, you better get silver. That'll change your luck.
Is that right?
You better get silver, mostly a 6 months.
Right. You weren't giving it away for nothing?
You weren't giving away your luck.
Right. Well, that time the pat pigs were kept in the tea chest beside the fire.
That's right, they were kept beside the heat.
Yeah. Well, there's a man over here at the back, Jim.
Where?
My neighbour and friend, Willie Williamson.
You'd be Primrose.
Yeah, that's right. Remember me?
Remember you were Kathy.
Where's Caroline now?
In Canada.
Young
Married with 2
aye,
children.
aye,
In Canada.
aye.
He used to tell us that about a traveller coming along years ago, and he was looking for work. He was only very young at the time, but he said maybe some of them would stay there and get a bob or a bit of tobacco or something like that, but he said he hadn't work, it was coming forward by the springtime. But he asked him for something and he gave it to him. I think he asked for tobacco, and that's what puts it into my head. Maybe there was somebody else working with him at the time. But he got the pipe of tobacco anyway. That's how the tobacco comes about. But he was very young at the maybe the man that he had working. But he said he had no work, and he asked him could he use the tools for a few minutes. He says, carry on. But he looked about and he got this bit of steel. He didn't know what he was doing. He started to make a razor. And your daddy, he had the grindstone, and he turned the grindstone when he had it made. And he made the whole thing and riveted it. And he took the end and he honed it. And he says he had hair about 1.5 inches long on his arm, and he put up the sleeve like that, and he says it was just shooting up into the air.
Where Ed John?
But he was finished on it. And he held it up in the tongs there at a drop of the anvil, and it went like that. And he didn't know what way to get him to stay. But he tried him to stay now. He says, I'll not be able to travel all through Ireland. So he said maybe the work he get plenty for learning. He says he had work enough, but when he seen what the way could temper here. But eventually he didn't, but he thanked him, he hit him on the shoulder, and he thanked him for giving him the tools in the way he went. And he says, if you're over on the road again, call again, he says, many's the time you watch me, never appear. Never appear.
I heard they'll take Lolly saying that in Harvey's long ago. There's plenty of tramp tradesmen that time. They see Harvey would never send them away, give them a job.
Aye.
Might stay a week, they might only stay a day.
That's right.
This old boy landed on him, and that time Harvey made gates for Lemon's shop and pig troughs and made coppers and ovens. But he gave the old boy a job making pig troughs. And he stayed the 1 week. Now Dick Lally says he just stayed the 1 week, threw his money in away. But saying Monday morning when we went into the workshop, he had a wee pig roughly carved sitting in the last trough he made. Let them see he was better than a pig trough made.
All right.
They would wait never seen more.
No, that's the way they work. But he said to them, God, he says, you're some smith. He says, I'm no smith, he says. My father was a smith. He says, he was a good blacksmith. And did you not stay with him now? He said, I didn't. I started drinking and chased him. He come from Mayo. And he had been in America, he travelled a lot, all over Ireland. And he had been in America.
There's some kind of tramp tradesmen.
Oh, perfect.
I made an old fella, Kelly, landed us in Aragonla, plasterer. And he hadn't dipped a tool from my left Killarney. Tramp and walked the whole road. And he said he had a good coat, big notebook, and he threw it away. It was too warm to carry it. But I made him a hand flute and a hawk, and Tommy Duffy lent him the price of the trowel. And he walked the whole time the chapel was going on. And he left it as rich as he come.
Just left the switch. Santa as quick as he got it.
As quick as he got it. And some of them morning night.
Oh,
Oh, that's right. On the tiger, eh?
Oh, I do, right there. I mind down there, all right. Here's my boss. Don't come in.
No. I mean,
And he made a bar that he who he wants a job too.
no,
So I seen him do it.
they wouldn't go to men that wouldn't sub.
No, I seen him do it for the boy now.
They wouldn't go to builders that wouldn't give him a sub.
Subbing before he wanted a job.
Well, I seen him come with a telephone. Him we were at it. And oh, he was drunk when he landed.
No,
And he put in 2 days drinking.
he did.
And then he started.
He did. Oh, that was handy, all right.
And there was a man wheeling him with a bar of scratch coating around the chopper.
Oh.
And 2 men mixing. And he was rolling on stuff the whole time.
No, no, all the thing.
And he couldn't get the thistle quick enough.
Hmm.
You hear Hannah Quill talking about him? He used to make jout, as he called it. Old thistle there, he grind it between 2 hawks into powder. And wet it again, have it in an old jumper or something. You put a bit of that into the fresh thistle to hurry it up.
Hold it up.
It was quick enough for him.
No, it wasn't going quick enough for him. I know what the thistle be out now. They call it thistle plaster.
It's a long time out. There was plaster of Paris and lame putty before
That's
that.
right. That's right.
But the tell about the time Mickey Donnelly was doing that house in Balmer Street where he lived, the thistle plaster come out that time. And you mean Bertie Lowe, Bertie knew over.
Aye.
But Bertie was attending the plasters to see this thistle plaster come in the bags. Bertie emptied the bag of it out in the yard, mixed it up with a shovel. Come in to get a bucket, when he went back, the shovel was stuck in it.
Oh, good, surely.
That's the first day from saying on the first thistle plaster come.
Lime putty they used to
Aye, lame
used to
putty.
slaughter it.
Aye.
And then you put so much
Plaster of Paris.
plaster first, a wee lock of cement to it, not much. And then there was very dead sand.
That's right.
You would put a wee
Then
lock
there
to
was,
it.
there was hair in water.
That's right there.
The old hair used to come and you had a baby like twice as born and
That's right. And
the dust of it would have killed you.
and animal's blood.
I
They
seen
put it to it for seeds.
that gable there gone in the chapel, stripped for plaster, the old gable. And you'd only take a bit off just in front of the chisel. Nobody take a flake off. And there was an old red tinge to it and they said there was bullock's blood, wasn't it?
That's right, blood.
Often you'd have that, sure.
Aye, blood.
Tommy, do we hear that a cow don't win putting aye.
For shoot.
That's right for
for a
feet.
brace.
That's right for a brace. Aye.
That'll stop it.
It'll stop it, that's right.
It's on a scratch hook.
Aye, surely.
Mix the blood through it and
Aye.
should not come through.
Not come through, that's right.
Well, mine on that plaster would come out first.
And him and his brothers used to do a lot of building around the country.
That's right.
He built houses, dwelling houses, and what other types?
Piggeries and diplomat houses.
They built their houses.
What else? Hay sheds.
Uh-huh. You never built a lime kiln?
No, they were before my time.
Before your time?
A while, just not so long.
Well, you showed me a peculiar thing at a lime kiln one time, Fonzie.
Was that the limestone? That
The lime
were
kiln.
heated up with it?
That's right.
Oh, well, we're keeping them on.
Uh-huh. And
But they might be worth a lot of money.
They might now.
You know?
well, it was a load of limestone was drew by horse and cart and tipped up at the lime kiln and never was used.
It never was used. Must have quit burning then.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why.
And it's still lying there in the
Still
land.
lying there.
That's very unusual.
It is.
Aye.
I don't know how long that'd be ago now. I don't remember it anyway.
Aye. You're talking about 80 years, maybe?
Ah, well, I'm not 80 yet.
No.
Sorry, but don't be making me that old.
Uh-huh.
We'll say 7.
Right. We'll move on over to Tommy Cassidy here. And Tommy, his father was a carpenter. Could you tell us a wee bit about it? What do you remember of the carpentry trade, Tommy?
I remember making the carts and wheels and all, and sweeping out the fellas out of the plank, and the fellas in the yard. I remember a few occasions turning the lathe, with a hand lathe.
A hand lathe?
I turned the lathe.
Right, and what was...
He held the scissors to it.
Is that right? That was unusual.
It wasn't too often done now, but it was done a few times. Sometimes barrel wheels and that.
Aye. And did your father make carts for people from far away as well?
It was as far away as Mayo. I think I heard him saying there was one in from one day.
Is that right? That was a brave distance to come. And you told me that he had a lot of carts on the street one time?
There's 20 of them at a time in the place. Some of them made new and some of them in for repair.
Right.
One for service, oil change and that.
So it was horses' carts, ponies' carts, donkeys' carts?
Mostly that.
Wheelbarrows?
Wheelbarrows, pipe troughs and gates. No dresser. Things like that.
Did any of his work survive at all to this day?
No, there's not any that I know.
So that trade died and you didn't carry it on because...
No, and the last cart was done a bit nice. I would have done a good part of it.
Is that right?
He was over 70 at the time.
Right.
You know, when he gave up then, like for an uncle of mine.
So if you had the query, you could nearly face one again?
Well, they would give a hand on it anyway. Bits and pieces, shoeing the wheels and all. It was heavy work.
It was heavy, sweaty work.
I used to always look after the shoe wheels. I always remember them going in and changing the clothes and all, and the mother having new dry clothes for them, and short and long johns and all that. I remember one time I'm making a pole ladder.
A pole ladder? Right.
You know, it's like a tree.
Yes.
It's 30 foot long.
Yes.
Letting it top to bottom, putting in the rungs in.
That's right.
About 6 inches at the bottom, like, you know, a bit bottom, about 3 at the top.
Right.
Well, they used to use them for the thatched houses.
That's right.
Laying the street, they go right up to the...
It was quite a long one then?
30 foot.
You don't know what timber was used?
I don't know. No. Probably be Scotch or something.
Probably be spruce.
Spruce.
Would it be straighter?
It would have to be something that goes there.
Probably what it did.
There was a lot of happy work at the yard.
Indeed there was now. Did you ever help at the greens beside you, Fonzie?
Except that shoe the wheels
Did you
used to
have
be
to
at it.
shoe the wheels?
That was all.
Do you remember them cursing and swearing when the
No, they
was getting
didn't.
hot?
No, they didn't. No.
They didn't?
No.
Not so bad.
No.
I'm going back tomorrow to old Ireland and to Rome, to a spot from where misfortune made me roam. In the city of its thousands I am lonely and alone, so we're a boys for Ireland and for home. I won't mind the journey though the road be rough and long, if tomorrow I shall see my Irish shore. And the day beyond tomorrow I'll be marching with a song on the old road from Omagh to Dromore. Don't I know every turn on the road I love so well? Every landmark in my mind is craving still. Was my face turned to Grunnan and me back to Bessie Bell, I'll be halfway when I reach Ellen's Mill. Don't I know I'll be tired and blisters on my feet, but tomorrow I'll forget that they were sore, when I hear the cheery welcome from the people that I meet on the old road from Omagh to Dromore. When I reach Clonnabogan with the shadows long and cool, I'll sit me down and rest an hour there, till the small voice of reason whispers, boys, you were a fool to ever leave a country half so fair. Now forgetting all my troubles and the city's noise and throng, and a glimpse of happy days that are before, my footsteps may be heavy, but my heart will love the song on the old road from Omagh to Dromore. There's a little white cottage just a mile outside Dromore, and in the corner still a vacant chair. And for years I've been dreaming of the welcome that's in store from that little grey-haired lady waiting there. I'm going back to mother and no more I mean to roam. I'll tell her that my roaming days are o'er, and I know she'll give a blessing to the road that brought me home. It's the old road from Omagh to Dromore.
Thank you.